Hello and welcome to Quantum Leaders CEO Insight, where we take the living organization perspective of an organization as a living being and see how we can develop it to its higher level of maturity. In this session, I want to talk about great resignation. Why are so many people leaving their jobs, even though we're offering them great benefits? What is happening in the market where particularly younger people are not staying in the job for more than 6 months, a year at a time? And how do we deal with that when we really need to rely on our workforce to deliver the capacity, the capability to produce, right? So from a leadership perspective, from a CEO perspective, here is what I've been encountering. I speak to a lot of CEOs and they do talk to me about the problem of finding people, really difficult to recruit people in the first place. And then when you recruit them, they spend a little time, 6 months to a year. They demand high, payment, high bonuses, high conditions, flexibility, working from home. And then when you give it to them, someone, they leave anyway. Uh, and if in some respect, what is happening is it is much deeper problem than most people realize. This problem has been with us for a long time. It is not necessarily a current paradigm. It's actually even 20, 30 years ago, me as a young man, I went through the same issue. I worked for a large organization, Telecom Australia, Telstra. And I remember very distinctly at some stage having this feeling that I simply don't belong to the company. And so I believe it's a problem deeper. It's a problem of belonging. And what does it really mean to belong to a community, to a company? What I recognized even in the early stages of my life is that somehow it did not fit into the culture, even though I wasn't very conscious of what's going on. It just did not feel that this company was my home. I could not see my future in this company. As I looked around at other executives, I was already actually in middle management position after a very short while, had my MBA. I did not want to be one of them. I did not want their life, their living. They were extremely stressed and busy. I was not excited about the opportunities they were seeing ahead, even though I loved the technology and it was a great company and gave me a lot, but I left anyway. And so I see this a lot in young people today. In some respect, what we need to do is understand at a much deeper level what is going on as leaders. We need to shift our paradigm from organization as a system and where you define the roles, responsibilities, the boxes, and then you fit people into the box. And if they don't fit, then you find other ones, or you try to incentivize them with bonuses and special treatments of working from home or whatever it is that they want. You see, it's not so much just working from home or money or career development, which are all important things. I believe is if the people don't feel they're aligned at a deeper level of purpose, meaning, finding themselves in the right environment that's conducive for them, for their growth, then eventually, or actually sooner than later, they will leave to look for something else. The problem is that a lot of people are not even conscious that this is what they're looking for. It takes a certain amount of awareness and maturity to say, you know what I'm looking for is X, Y, and Z. I'm looking for this kind of culture. I'm looking for that kind of work environment. Very few young people, or even people in the later stage of their life, consciously understand what they're looking for. And so it's up to us in some respect as leaders to define what is the culture, what is this community going to stand for, and then present people with choices in terms of, well, This is what we stand for. This is what our values are in organization. This is how we behave, and this is who we are being. This is where we're going. This is our vision, and this is our mission for why we exist as a company. Is it something you want to belong to? Does it feel like it's you? And then people can make their own choices. The reality is, you cannot force them to do anything these days. I mean, you know that doesn't matter what you offer them. We also need, so that's number one, is being very clear about your culture, your not just your culture, but what you stand for as organization, and what kind of people do you really want in it, and what is the game you're playing, right? Literally, are you playing soccer, or are you playing basketball, or are you playing football, right? They're different games, and people can then choose. I love playing football. I don't care for basketball. Fine, then find yourself another company. But we know that from the start, it's much more clearer. Otherwise, what we do is we we literally play games with each other. We try to incentivize them, put them in a box, and see if they can do the job. And it's a carrot and stick, kind of a very old-fashioned way of managing people, and it still doesn't work because people don't care for your carrot. And sure, they will be afraid of your stick for a while, but after a while they will leave anyway, and so you'll have huge churn. The alternative is to build a phenomenal culture where you attract the kind of people that love your game, right, and what you stand for. So that's number one. The second one, major point, is doesn't matter what kind of person it is, typically they will not be able to fill your position at 100%. There will be certain gap in capabilities and certain gap in maturity. If they were brilliant, they probably would start their own company, or will go work for someone maybe with a higher brand, higher pay, and somewhere else. But typically, people come and they, because of the resource constraint right now, they are a few notches down from where you want them to be. And you need to recognize that, right? It doesn't matter what they say in the interview. As you know, the interviews don't show until they start working. What we need to do is recognize there will be a gap, and see if we can assess that gap. And that's exactly what we do a lot of the times. Right up front, we develop a maturity and assessment and capability assessment, and we we observe people on the job. And it's difficult to do it during interview, but we observe people on the job, and then we'll be able to assess what is the gap level required. Now, I want to give you another idea, which is a very important one. Obviously, it is difficult to hire people and understand that gap right up front. So why not create a buy before you try before you buy environment, where for the most, you give them 30-day or 60-day or even 120-day trial. Now you can even hire, if it's a senior person, you can hire them as a consultant and see how they actually work, or a contractor. So do not commit necessarily. And people don't want to commit either. So that's one option, is create a trial period. The other option is putting them, like some of the big companies do, through a 2 or 3 week kind of a onboarding, really intense onboarding, where they actually work, but they also get inculcated, trained on not just the task, but the culture of the organization, and they see how they react and perform in that environment. And if they don't want it, within 3 weeks, they're absolutely happy to go. In fact, you can even give them, a few $1,000s for that, just to thank them for their time and effort. So it's very mutual. Zappos did that. The big shoe company, Tony Hirschenson, got it. This onboarding, to almost a 2 week onboarding, and it was very successful. So that's one practical idea for you. So again, number one, define the rules of the game, define the culture, use the culture to attract people rather than try to chase them. And secondly, identify the maturity and development and capability gap, and see if you can create a process, an onboarding process, where they can actually be observed, and they can choose you as well as you choosing them. So these are some of the two elements. Number three, and also very important one, obviously people are not performing in a vacuum. They work in a team. And even though you might have a person who doesn't quite up to par, maybe doesn't feel they quite belong because they feel ostracized a little bit, maybe they're very unique in their skill set. And so they just feel that they don't fit into organization. It's important to build the team dynamics around them. Okay, people shift partly. People shift their behavior and shift their even how they stretch in terms of their capabilities when they're in the right team. I mean, I was coaching people in team, doing a lot of team coaching and also sports coaching, and I observed how some people who, even though they're a little bit a few notches down in their capability, when put in the right team, were really developed really fast. Okay, because they feel the team is pulling him up. So creating a team dynamics where it's okay, it's safe to learn for everybody, where it's not antagonistic and competitive, on the opposite, everybody's looking after each other, is a very important point. How do you do that is a big question, right? Well, we usually start at the executive level, and we do that not in some team building exercises, which are all great, those physical exercises you do on the retreat centers, in the retreat centers. We do it while they're working on a solid business initiative. Now, it could be a business plan they're putting together. It could be a specific project, everybody's cross-functional project across the organization. So what we do is we take the executive team first and we put them through what we call road mapping exercise. And let's develop a roadmap for a specific initiative or the whole company. How are we going to scale the company or grow the company? Where we're going in the next 2-3 years? This exercise does two things. One is, of course, develops a very solid execution plan, which is always the most important thing in the organization. Easy to develop strategies, hard to execute them. Secondly, what it does is, what we do is look at the team dynamics, look how they're communicating with each other, look how they're managing conflict. Are they able to manage conflict without tearing into each other and creating antagonistic relationships? Are they even aware that they're doing this? Because typically people are not. They have not been trained in what we call non-violent communications and team dynamics that is actually can contradict one another, but at the same time be supportive for one another. Usually it's one or the other. So how do they deal with those polarities where you want to say what you want to be able to state your opinion that is opposing to someone else, but also respect the other person for theirs, and then come to a harmonious conclusion where maybe both of your opinions are getting into account, or maybe even 5 different alternatives are put together and produce a common for a common good, a solution that would be much better than any individual could come up with. That is a dynamic that is critically important, not just at executive level, of course, but then once the executives understand how to create this harmonious team dynamic and empowering each other, listening from the heart to each other. These are all the techniques, by the way, that we teach. Then they can pass it down to the next level, to the mid level, and down it goes. And so now we have an organization that is capable of creating really effective teams. And I'm not talking about just time management and the conventional stuff. That's important, right? But if you don't have a safe and empowering team dynamics, the rest doesn't matter, right? Because the mechanics will, remember, this is a living being. A team is a living being, and so the mechanics cannot sustain this organization. What we need to have is the relationships and meaning making, and how the relationship has to be harmonious before we can actually have a high performance team. So these are the three things that the three elements that we've really focused on, and we have had some phenomenal success with organizations that weren't quite together. The headquarters versus the local branches, and then marketing versus sales and ops. The usual silo conflict, and we were able to bring them together under and teach them, support them on how to create harmonious environment that is for the good of the whole organization. How to mature from the point that it's all about me, it's about marketing, or it's about sales, to it's about us as organization. When we succeed together, then everybody gets the benefit. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this session, please share, please like, and I will be absolutely happy to talk to you individually uh, to see how this could apply in your unique case, because every organization is unique. There is no formula for this. There is a framework, but there is no formula. And so I'll be happy to speak to you. You can also contact us at quantumleaders.com. Thank you so much.